Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 6, the Livestock, from verses 143 to 146. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the Gracious, the Merciful. ثمانية أزواج من الضأن اثنين ومن المعز اثنين قل الذكرين حرم أم الأنثيين مما اشتملت عليه أرحام الأنثيين نبئوني بعلم إن كنتم صادقين. 8 pairs, 2 of the sheep and 2 of the goats. Say, did he forbid the 2 males or the 2 females, or what the wombs of the 2 females contain? Inform me with knowledge if you are truthful. ومن الإبل اثنين ومن البقر اثنين قل الذكرين حرم أم الأنثيين أم ما اشتملت عليه أرحام الأنثيين أم كنتم شهداء إذا وصاكم الله بهذا فمن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا ليضل الناس بغير علم إن الله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. And 2 of the camels and 2 of the cattle. Say, did he forbid the 2 males or the 2 females, or what the wombs of the 2 females contain? Were you present when God enjoined this upon you? Who does greater wrong than he who invents lies and attributes them to God in order to mislead people without knowledge? God does not guide the wicked people. قل لا أجد فيما أوحي إلي محرم على طعام يطعمه إلا أن يكون ميتة أو دما مسفوحا أو لحم خنزير فإنه رجس أو فسقا أهل لغير الله به فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فإن ربك غفور رحيم. Say, in what was revealed to me, I find nothing forbidden to a consumer who eats it except carrion or spilled blood, or the flesh of swine because it is impure, or a sinful offering dedicated to other than God. But if someone is compelled by necessity without being deliberate or malicious, your Lord is forgiving and merciful. وعلى الذين هادوا حرمنا كل ذي ظفر ومن البقر والغنم حرمنا عليهم شحومهما إلا ما احتملت ظهورهما أو الحوايا أو ما اختلط بعظم ذلك جزيناهم ببغيهم وإنا لصادقون. For the Jews we forbade everything with claws. As of cattle and sheep, we forbade them from their fat, except what adheres to their backs or the entrails, or what is mixed with the bone. This is how we penalize them for their iniquity. We are indeed truthful. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God the Great said the truth. The verses here are addressing what we were talking earlier in regards to how the people are coming up with lies and fabricating it so that they would further themselves and their own personal agendas, and they make the religion about themselves rather than what God is telling them, and then they attribute these lies back to God. So we had a concept where these people, these men, they were forbidding things that were in the wombs of certain animals and saying these are not allowed for you to eat because God said so, because these are for our meals. And yet when it comes out dead, they're allowing their wives to eat from it, which is against clearly what God has said that is forbidden for the human being. Now the concept here, God is also explaining to us from what we are reading in Arabic in regards to the blessings of these animals that we eat. So we've been given the understanding that there's sheep and goats. God is putting them in one verse here, and he's showing us there that these are blessings for us to get from them as we were learning food and things to drink and clothing in regards to the sheep and goats. And here now we're getting to a concept, and this is something that you should test yourself on. When someone is saying to you that something is forbidden, or you're going as far as saying to somebody something is forbidden, you need to provide the evidence on who told you this. So here now you're clearly being asked, they're being asked, disbelievers, bring the knowledge if you are being truthful. But the concept here is God has made all of this legal. So there's no way that God is going to be contradicting himself in regards to him making things illegal as an entity as a whole, or something that is within the wombs of a stomach that this is going to be now designated for people. This is not something that God has revealed in history, and this is just lies that they're producing. And then the next verse where God is talking about the cattle and the camels, It's the same question. Did God forbid the males from you or the females from you from eating? And did he forbid what is in the wombs of the camels and the cows? But here now the question changes a little bit. Were you present when that was happening? So a lot of people right now in this day and age, they repeat the lies of what they were told as children, thinking that this is coming from God. The only way that they solidify this claim is by thinking that they have this mass gathering of people supporting them. And it's because the person that they gave the authority to, whether it's a man in a mosque or a man in a church, they give them the authority. And because he said it, it's the end of the story. But we have a lot of things that are being told to us that is forbidden, but yet they cannot produce a witness saying that God has forbidden this. They were not present when the Quran was being revealed, nor were they present when Jesus was walking, nor are they present when Muhammad was preaching. This is something that is very easy to understand. So when you're going to make a claim that Muhammad forbade something or that Jesus forbade something, yet you don't see it in the book that is attributed to said prophets, then now you're going to have to do your own way of explaining or revealing. So the interesting word is God is here using where God is telling us here in the verse 143, Nabbi'uni, which the word Nabbi'uni is coming from the word Naba, which is Nabi. So it's where the person has the authority to bring this proof and bring this understanding which is coming from God. Yes, we can always use Naba as a word for the event, but the person who's truly capable of telling us the events that are coming from God or the regulations of God is technically what we would call as a prophet, someone who's telling you the legislation. Now, if God is ordering you to do something as what people are telling you, then you need the evidence from God. Simply saying that a man told me so, this is going to cause you to fall into delusions, as God clearly tells us here. That who's doing a greater wrong than the one who's inventing a lie and attributes them to God in order to mislead people without knowledge. Now, this is a concept of delusion where the person himself is not realizing, they're not always fully coherent, that they are the one who are fabricating this lie. They're going with their whims and desires, and when they're presented with actually what God said, they persist being arrogant. They cannot self-correct or self-adjust just simply because they cannot surpass their own mentality, their own psyche, and the devil is pushing them into saying things, or they themselves are just following their own whims and desires, and then they are misguiding others. Now, God is telling us something about these specific individuals that have absolutely no problem saying what they say. God does not guide the wicked people. So those that have no problem within their hearts to say something is forbidden or something that is legal when God has not addressed it or God has not made it forbidden, those people, you have to understand that they're wicked inside. They're not considering what God says, and to them it's either about their cult or about their own well-being or their parents or whatever they're gaining from whatever they're saying. It's something that is very backwards to understand. It's very backwards on how you approach life, because clearly the only entity that is fully capable of explaining everything to you in perfect understanding and perfect composition of what he's giving us is God. So why would you ever think that someone else is capable of giving you something other than what God has given you in regards to what you can and cannot do? You just simply become a wicked person because your agenda is not to serve God, but yet to serve something other than God. And at that point you failed. And now the prophet is explaining to us. He is doing a naba, and he's telling us, and very clear, and this is something that we have to repeat because it says say. So when we are presented with individuals that are saying that this is halal or this is haram, as they usually say, or this is forbidden, this is permissible, yet God has made something already forbidden that they're making permissible, or God has made something permissible that they're making forbidden, then you're supposed to say to them in regards to the food that nothing that we find that was revealed to us is forbidden to someone who wants to eat, except, and God lists the exceptions. One of them is what we know is the carrion, or something that is born dead, or something that has just naturally died. This is not something that we're allowed to eat. It needs to be sacrificed. That meat of something that is just dead on the side of the street is not applicable to us, nor are we allowed to eat it. And now God is also telling us something about the swine here, the flesh of the swine, the skin of the meat of the swine, where he's telling us that there is an impurity. There's an inherent impurity to the pig that when you eat it, you are also consuming this impurity. And of course, it is very sinful when people are dedicating this meat to other than God. And then at that point, they are falling into idolatry, and that meat shouldn't be for you to eat. But notice how here, when it came to the concepts of something that is forbidden, God did clarify to you the exception where it belongs. Because here, it is truly about what you are intending, and only God would know your full intentions and you would be aware of it. Are you just wanting to taste how the pork tastes or how pepperoni tastes because you've seen it on a pizza? You have a little bit of hunger, but you're not actually hungry, and you're saying, well, I'm in a position where there's no any other food, so I'm going to eat it. Instead of trying to see if that you could resolve this, you were truthfully just trying to taste the pepperoni to see how it tasted, and it was not out of necessity. You could sit and decorate that to everyone around you, but rather you will see on the day of judgment that God was fully aware of your ingratitude to what God has said, that you and your curiosity, it got the best of you, and and you went against what God has said. Now, there's other concepts in the Quran that are presented to us, such as gambling and wine, where God says that within them there's big sin and little benefits. But over there, the word haram was not used, the word forbidden was not used. And here, God was telling us about spilled blood, but yet He did not mention alcohol. Because sometimes you use these things not because out of necessity, but because it is something that has a benefit at certain moments. I'm not saying that we can drink recreationally and that's when it's permissible. No, that's when God is telling us to avoid it. But in regards to intoxications, there are some people that have diseases where the intoxication generally helps them. Someone who's suffering from Parkinson's and smokes THC or ingests THC, it helps them calm down and helps them with their disease. This is not a psychological issue. This is a physical issue that can cause pain, just like cancer can be helped with marijuana, from what I understand. But at the same time, you have people that are removing their wisdom teeth or they're undergoing dental surgery, and they're taken under by laughing gas. And it's not a necessary step, but it's something that is there to help you and ease you from your pain. And that's when the verses that we're going to read in regards to not approaching the prayer where you're intoxicated starts to take effect. But especially when it comes down to the food, God is telling us here very clearly that it is sinful for you and it is forbidden from you. So if you are willingly eating pork after what you were told here, this is enough reason, this is enough for you to find yourself in really deep trouble on the day of judgment. It might even land you in hell, because this is a clear line that God told you you're not allowed to cross, and you're crossing it. And if you never repent and you think that you're doing a good actions and that you're paying and thinking that you're praying, the fact that you have absolutely no fear that you are transgressing and you are going over the limits that God has set, it clearly shows that you're taking God's mercy for granted. It clearly shows that you are not a person who's capable of reflecting or going back to God. And it clearly shows that you are just somebody who's bought into the worldly life and what you're gaining now. And you simply just cannot accept the word no as an answer. And this brings me to a very important point where we're understanding from the people before that when the word no was said to them, it's just not something that they accept, that they still want to do whatever they want and they want to go through with whatever they had. So when there's no, there is nothing that is forbidden for you from these cattle and the goats and the sheep and the camels that God has given you, they want to persist with their lives and their system, which at this point is just a moot point, because they are people who are just will not get guided. And again, this is why it's very important for us to keep reflecting on these books, on the book that God has given us. And it's very important for us to approach the matter where we're allowing God to judge instead of people telling us what God has said. We just allow God to judge and God to teach us. Now, there are people where God has removed certain blessings from them just simply because of their inequity. They are people who are lying, they are killing messengers, they're killing prophets. They say that they're guided, they're corrupting a lot on the earth, and God has put for them more regulations in their religion, and He removed more blessings from them. It's just because of the path that they wanted to take. This is a way for them so that they would stick more to what God is saying and remind themselves more of what God has shown, and they needed this in their position. But notice now that when Jesus came and He removed some of these blockages of what is forbidden to the Jews specifically, we see that now over there in their religion, they went as far as making what God has made forbidden on everybody legal. Now, the concept of people forbidding things on themselves, yes, as long as you don't say that it's God who did that and you do not enforce it on anyone else. And the reason why you're forbidding things on yourself is just simply your body is not capable of handling it. Someone with a peanut allergy, or he cannot just eat peanuts, he's someone who's forbidding peanuts on himself. He can go ahead and eat it, but it's going to cause him a lot of issues. Somebody who's going on a diet and he swears off rice or bread, again, he's at this point, he's yuharrim, he is actually making something that is impermissible for himself, but it does not become his religion, it becomes his way of approaching things. And now in regards to the Jews, this is something that God has enforced on them. It did not come from themselves. And there is now, you see, some backing and some evidence on why these people are as corruptive as they are. Because as much more they're being penalized, they keep disregarding and not caring and not upholding the extra stuff that they were penalized for, yet alone the basics and the necessities. We see some of them engaging by eating pork willingly, and they don't care about the fats and they don't care about what God has told them that they're not allowed to eat. Now, we can even go as far as understanding something that has a claw. It can be understood as a talon, and that can be somewhat of certain types of birds. So it seems like maybe chicken is something that can be addressed and debated with them. But we don't sit and have these discussions. These are discussions that are left for them to decide and based upon their books and what their book says. But God has given them an easy way out for them to believe in the Gentile prophet and for them to follow what God has revealed in the book. But these people opt to just sit with their lies, and they, even when they're penalized, they want to break the rules rather than fearing God and sticking to what God has told them so that they could redeem themselves. With that said, all praise to our Lord, the Lord of the worlds, and peace be upon you.